Today I'll show you how to crochet this iPhone pocket. The fabric is reversible with different texture on each side. You can actually make it for any phone, it doesn't have to be an iPhone. It's very easy, only takes about 2 hours to finish, so let's get into it. So for this project, we're going to use the 3mm crochet hook mainly, and you're gonna need the 3.5mm in addition. This is gonna help making the piece much neater, so yeah. In this video, I'm using this yarn. It is DK yarn category number 3 or light yarn. It doesn't really show on this label, but it does recommend using the 4mm crochet hook. And usually with lightweight DK yarn, they do recommend the 4mm crochet hook on the label. As you can tell, we are using a smaller hook than what's recommended on the label because we just want the stitches to be tighter. You can also use fine yarn, category number 2. This one, I'm making another one with this yarn and it is going pretty well. It looks pretty good and solid. And I also crochet this piece with these 2 crochet hook. What else? Okay. And you're gonna need scissors, measuring tape, some stitch markers. I'm using bobby pins. These are very convenient and you need at least 5 to 6 of them. You're also gonna need some clippers that will hold 2 crochet fabric together like this. So it can be any clippers that you have in your house. Maybe this one. Okay, and you need at least 3 of them. Last but not least, you need a yarn needle, and this is not for sewing. This is for weaving the ends into the piece by the end of the project. So we're gonna start with a number of chains. This number will determine the length of your pocket. I usually make around 80 chains. I'll put some measurement on the screen for your reference. The original iPhone pocket from Apple is around 40 centimeters. I think you'll need about 90 chains if you want the same length. It can be as long as you want. And I will measure my chain for your reference. So yeah, let's make the chain. We're gonna make the chain with the 3.5mm crochet hook because we want the chain to be a little bit more flexible for the stitches, because if you've crocheted before, you know that the chain can be really stiff. And this is an example of a stiff chain here. This chain is really stiff. I made it with the 3mm crochet hook, and I don't know if you can see it, like the stitches are really flexible, but the chain is really stiff, you see? So that's not what we want. If you use the 3.5mm the right way, you'll get like a really flexible foundation chain that stretches as well as the stitches. So now with the 3.5mm crochet hook, you're gonna make a slip knot. Hold the yarn like this. This is the tail of the yarn, the rest is the working yarn. Put the hook on this yarn like so, twist to make a loop, a loose loop like that, okay? And then you'll hold it right here. With this working yarn, you're gonna yarn over, turn the hook slightly like so to catch on the loop, and bring it through the loop that you are holding. Pull on the tail to fasten, and that is your slip knot. The point of the slip knot is for this loop on your hook to be adjustable with the working yarn, not the tail, okay? So when you pull on the working yarn, it adjusts the size of the loop on the hook, all right? All the loops on the hook should be close to the size of the hook. It should not be too loose that it's floppy, and it should not be too tight that is hard to work with. And also if you pull really hard on this working yarn, it will mess with the size of the chain loops, okay? So to make chain, you simply yarn over. Remember to turn your hook like so that it catch the yarn like that, and then pull through the loop on your hook like so. And that is your very first chain. So you just keep making chain by yarn over and pull through like so. And remember, you want the loop on the hook to be close to the size of the hook, but not too tight. If you pull too tight on the working yarn, it will look somehow like this. And you will see that it looks kind of uneven, right? So you want it to be very nice and close to the sides of the hook like so, okay? Pull gently on the working yarn so that it will be even. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And you will see your chain should be even like so. Okay, so I have 7 chains here. I'm gonna keep doing this until I have 80 chains. 8, 9, 10, 11, so here I have 80 chains, and as you can see it has this nice stretch to it. And if I measure this right now, this is around 19 centimeters, and I fold this in half, so it should be like 38 centimeters. So now we are going to switch to the 3mm crochet hook, okay? You just pull this loop up a little and then replace it with this hook. Remember, you want the loops to be close to the sides of the hook, okay? You're gonna make one more chain with this 3mm crochet hook, like so. And you see that the chain is kind of smaller than the ones that made with the 3.5, right? Okay, now you see that each chain shaped like little V. This is the front of the chain. When you flip the chain to the back, like so, you will see little bump on each chain. For this project, we are going to work into these bumps instead of the V shape of the chains. So for the first stitch, you're gonna insert a hook into the second bump. The first bump is this one that is belong to the chain that made with the last chain that made with this 3mm crochet hook, right? You are going to put the first stitch into this second bump like so, okay? Okay, so let me just bring it closer, like so. This one, for half double crochet, you're gonna yarn over with the working yarn like so. Insert the hook into this second bump like that. With the working yarn, you're gonna catch another loop, pull out like so. All the loops on the hook should stay close to the sides of the hook, okay? So it should not be too loose like this, should not be too tight that it's hard to work with. It should be nice and even like so, okay? To finish the half double crochet, you're gonna yarn over with the working yarn and then pull through all 3 loops, like that, okay? And that is your very first half double crochet in the second chain, working in the bump of the chain, okay? And you would want to mark the very first stitch or half double crochet, and you will see this is the body of the half double crochet. Next to the loop on your hook, you will see this V that's supposed to be on top of the stitch, but it's kind of leaning to the right, and you want to put the stitch marker right there. Okay, first half double crochet, okay? That one next to the loop on your hook, you just insert your stitch marker right under the V like so. Okay, that's how it should look like. Now we're gonna make another half double crochet into this next bump. So you just work in this one is the next one, that one, okay? This is the front of the V, behind the V. Take this bump, yarn over, insert the hook into the bump, like so. With the working yarn, bring our loop, 3 loops on a hook, make sure that it's even, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Okay, another one in this next bump, yarn over, insert the hook into the bump, like so. With the working yarn, bring our loop, 3 loops on the hook like so, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And there you have 3 half double crochet. And as you can see, on top of each half double crochet, this V shape is laying right on top of the stitch. But this first stitch, it's kind of on an angle, that's why we need to mark this one, just so that we won't miss it, okay? Now you're gonna repeat the exact same process, half double crochet into each chain, working in the bumps like so. Remember to keep all the loops close to the sides of the hook, and we're gonna just keep doing the same thing until we are closer to the end of the chain. Make sure that you don't skip any chain on the way. If you got distracted and you skip one chain, like instead of working into this bump, you work in this bump, that can happen. And for beginners, it may not recognizable, but that's not what you want, okay? You want to put 1/2 double crochet into each chain. So make sure you don't miss any chain, like so. Just keep working into the next bump, like so. Okay, that's how it should look like. So a little tip for a beginner: when you're working 1/2 double crochet, yarn over, insert the hook, bring out a loop with 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through like so. Make sure that you pull through all 3 loops, okay? If you pull through only 2 loops like so, and you have here 2 loops with you at the end, and you just move on to the next stitch like that, that's not what you want. This is actually a decreasing. This is not what we want on this for this project. So remember to pull through all 3 loops for each stitch. And after you finish a stitch, you should always have 1 loop on your hook before moving on to the next loop. As you can see here, I'm at the end of the chain and I have 3 chains left, 3 bumps, right? Let's work this together. A 1/2 double crochet, a 1/2 double crochet, and the last 1/2 double crochet, like so. And this is how it should look like. Okay, now moving on to the next row. You're gonna need another marker. You turn the work like that. Make sure that the loop on the hook close to the side of the hook, you chain 1. Okay, so we're gonna make the first 1/2 double crochet of the second row into the first stitch, and you want to find the V on top of this first 1/2 double crochet. And it is not to be mistaken with this chain that we have just made. After turning the work right there, this little chain, okay, it's this V, okay, that is the first stitch. And it is also not to be mistaken with the V on the side of the stitch. So here you can see this is also a V shape. That can be confusing to beginners, but if you look closely, these V's are organized in a completely opposite direction. So they're like this, right? Why this V is like this. If you hold on to the edge of the piece like so, you will see these are the V on top of the stitches and these are on the side. So you will see in the reading pattern that we work 1/2 double crochet back loop only. We have 2 loops of the V, this first stitch. The front loop is the one that closer to you and the black back loop is the one that away from you. So we're going to insert the hook in the back loop like so for the next stitch. And if the pattern doesn't say back loop or front loop, if it's just say 1/2 double crochet, you're going to insert the hook right under the V, under both loops of the V like so, right? But this is back loop, so we insert the hook like that. All right, and for 1/2 double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook in the back loop of the first stitch like so, bring our loop with 3 loops on the hook, make sure that it's even, yarn over and pull through like so. Okay, and you're gonna take another stitch marker and put it right into the V next to this loop on your hook, which is the V on top of the first 1/2 double crochet that kind of lean to the right like so. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. You find the next V, this next 1/2 double crochet, yarn over, insert the hook in the back loop only of the V like so. With the working yarn, bring our loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through like so. Okay, you will see that the loop that you worked in got loosened a little bit like so, but don't worry about it, it will get even later. So let's just keep working, okay? Yarn over, insert the hook in the back loop of the next stitch like so, bring out loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That is 3 stitches of the first row. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Now we're just gonna keep repeating the same pattern. Half double crochet, back loop only, like that. Make sure that you put 1 half double crochet into each stitch, and you don't want to skip any stitches. So if you got distracted and you skip this next stitch, work in the next one like that. It may be hard to recognize for beginners, but that is also a another type of decreasing, which we don't want. It will deform the piece, right? So make sure that you put 1 half double crochet in the back loop of each stitch, like so. Okay? Make sure you don't skip any stitches, and also make sure that you don't work more than 1 stitch into each stitch. So if you work another stitch into the same place like that, we also don't want that, okay? Only 1 half double crochet in each stitch. And so you repeat this all the way until the end of the row, and I'll meet you there to show you how it's like. I'm at the end of this row and I have 3 stitches left. You see, this one, and this last one that we marked because it's the first stitch of the first row, right? So here we mark the first stitch of the second row. Here we have the first stitch of the first row. Let's do it together. Half double crochet, back loop only into these stitches, and for the last stitch we're gonna work half double crochet in both loops. So yarn over, insert the hook right where you put the stitch marker. So it's gonna be the full V, the both loops of the V like so. With the working yarn, bring our loop with 3 loops on the hook. Make sure it's even, yarn over and pull through. Okay, that's how it should look like. Now we're gonna turn the work like so, and again we're gonna do a chain 1 like that. Okay, you will see that in the previous row we worked half double crochet in the back loop only, and it created this nice rib line right there, and that rib line doesn't show on the other side of the fabric, right? Now if we also work half double crochet back loop only on this row, the rib gonna show on this side of the fabric, but we don't want that. We want the rib line, all the rib lines to be on one side of the fabric only, okay? So that's why we are going to work half double crochet front loop only on this next row. All right, so you see this first half double crochet, not to be mistaken with the chain 1 we made in the beginning, okay? Yarn over, front loop only, so it's gonna be the loop closer to you, not the one away from you. Insert your hook right into that loop like so, and then with the working yarn, bring our loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through. Okay, that's the first half double crochet. You're gonna move this marker to that new first half double crochet. Make sure that you put it right under both loops of the V like that. Okay, that's how it should look like. Okay, the V next to the loop on the hook, right? And then another one. Make sure that you don't mistake it with the V on the side of the stitch. Look for the V on top of the stitch, that one, okay? Front loop only, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Okay, next one, the next V, this one, front loop only, and pull through, another one, front loop only, pull through 3 loops, front loop only, and front loop only. And that's how it should look like. You can see that the rib show on the other side. This side doesn't have any, okay? So basically we're gonna work in the back loop when the rib is facing you, like that. When the rib lines are away from you, like this, you're going to work front loop only, okay? Yarn over, insert the hook in the front loop of the V on top of the stitches and half double crochet, like so. And again, make sure that you don't miss any stitches. Work loop to loop next to each other, like so. Make sure you don't mistake it with the loops on the side of the stitches. You can hold on to the edge like that and you can easily find the V on top. This V on top, it's actually not exactly right up on top, but it's also in an angle, but it's definitely more on top than this V on the side, right? So just put your finger right here to find the edge and you can easily find where to insert the hook, like that, okay? And we're gonna repeat the same thing, half double crochet, front loop only for this row. I'll meet you by the end of the row to show you one more time how it's like. As you can see here, I'm at the end of this row and I have 3 stitches left. 1, 2, and this last stitch. We're gonna do the same thing we did in the previous row. So let's work half double crochet front loop only in these 2 stitches until you reach the last stitch, okay? In the last stitch, when we work half double crochet under both loops, so yarn over, insert the hook right in the same place as your stitch marker, bring our loop, like so, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, okay? Then you are going to turn the work from the right to the left, like so, and you work another chain 1, and then in this row you can see the rib is facing you, okay? So you are going to work back loop only. Yarn over, find the back loop of the first stitch, this one, insert the hook, bring our loop, yarn over and pull through. The first stitch, remember to move the stitch marker to the next first stitch. Put it right under both loops of the V like so, okay? The one next to the loop on your hook. That's how it should look like, okay? And then you are going to keep half double crochet back loop only until the end of the row. And from now, the pattern is pretty much the same for a few next rows. Just keep alternating half double crochet back loop only and front loop only. Sometimes when you get distracted, you can work in the wrong loop. For example, right now, I'm having the rib lines facing away from me, so I have to work half double crochet front loop only. But if you accidentally work in the back loop only, like so, instead of working front loop only as it's supposed to be. So you can see right here, the rib it's like showing on this side, and this side there's no rib, which you can see like that. All you need to do is to unravel those stitches that you did wrong. And then the stitches may look a little messed up, but you can just pull on the piece like so. It will be easy to see the V on top of the stitches, and you just work the right way, which is right now is half double crochet front loop only. This is how to count the number of rows because it's maybe a little confusing for beginners, but it's actually really simple. You will see the alternate of receding and protruding rows. So here's one row, and then another row, it's kind of, you know, a little coming out of the fabric, and then this one a little like receding like that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know if that makes sense, but on the other side it's the same thing. This side with the ribbing lines actually a little bit more difficult to count the rows, but actually the same. You have this protruding rows 1, and then the receding 2, protruding 3, 4, and 5. So in overall here I have 5 rows. So I have here with me 10 rows, and I'm making this for the iPhone 15. Right now I put it on the phone, it looks a little bit shorter than the width of the phone, which is actually perfect because this fabric has a bit of stretch to it. When you stretch it, it's actually cover almost everything and even a bit to the side. And this is just half of the piece. So yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind. So next we are going to create the slit. Again, if you don't have the phone with you, you can search the length measurement of the phone that you're making this pocket for. You just put your phone onto the piece like that, leave just a little bit on this end, and then mark the stitch right here, maybe here or here, like so. And that's gonna be the pocket part, okay? And then for the top part of the handle, I'll put a picture on the screen. I will leave out 7 stitches. So here you can count from this one that we mark. 1, this one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I will mark that 7th stitch like so. Okay, and this is how it should look like by now. Next, what you're gonna do is that you're going to count the number of stitches between these 2 markers that you just did. So don't count the stitch that you mark, count from the stitch next to it. So this, from this one, right? Count from this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way until this stitch next to the other marker, this one, okay? And you will want to note down this number of stitches onto your handbook or anywhere into your phone, just so that we can use it later, okay? And we're gonna call this number X, okay? Next, we are going to repeat the same thing we did before. Turn the work and then chain 1, okay? And then work half double crochet front loop only, because this the ribbing lines are facing away from me, and work the front loop only. And still you want to mark this very first stitch, okay? And then just half double crochet front loop only, into do the same thing until you reach this marker. So let's do that. So as you can see here, I am closer to this marker and I have 2 stitches left. Let's just work the same half double crochet into these stitches, okay? And then in this mark stitch, you are going to work a half double crochet, but take both loops of the V, okay? Just insert your hook right there under both loops of the V, and then just half double crochet, okay? You can move this marker to this new stitch like so, okay? And now you are going to switch to the larger hook, or the 3.5 millimeter that we've been using, okay? And you're gonna make a number of chain that is the same as the stitches between these markers, or the X number that you note down earlier. Remember that you don't want this chain to be too tight, so don't pull too hard on the working yarn. Keep the loop on the hook close to the sides of the hook, but pull very gently on the working yarn, okay? Just so that the chains are nice and even, but don't make it too tight, like so, okay? So here we have 3 chains. Let's keep repeating until we have the same number of chains as X. Okay, and just to make sure, you can double check the number of chains. So counting from the chain next to this stitch that you mark, So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way until this stitch, and make sure that it's the same as X. All right. Then you are going to switch back to the 3mm. Make sure that the loop on the hook close to the sides of the hook, like so. Make sure that the chain is not twisted before you make the next stitch, because if it's twisted like this, it's gonna be hard to work in later for the next row, right? So make sure that it's nice and even, like so. And you put it like this, you can see the V shape laying very evenly. Okay. We're gonna work another half double crochet. We're gonna yarn over. Put your finger here to hold on that yarn over loop. And then in this marked stitch, you're also going to insert the hook right here where you mark the stitch. Insert your hook, bring our loop. Okay, make sure that the loops are close to the sides of the hook. Yarn over and pull through. Okay, you see that V shape on top of this new stitch that you made. You want to move this stitch marker to that stitch. Like so, just so that we won't mistake it with the chains, okay? Then you are going to work here. We have the rib lines away, facing away from us. So we work half double crochet, front loop only, all the way. So we have 7 stitches here. We already made 3 stitches, so we have 4 stitches left. Just front loop only until you reach the last stitch, and the same way you did before, you're going to work in both loops for the last stitch, like so. Turn the work, chain 1, and then work the first stitch. Here we have the ribbing back loop only, like so. Okay, move the marker to this first stitch, and then just half double crochet, back loop only, all the way until you reach the chain. So in overall, we have 7 stitches here on this part. Okay, in this place that you mark, you can actually remove this marker. And in this marked stitch, you can insert your hook under both loops of the V, like so. Okay, and then we're gonna start working in the chain. So here you can see this first chain. We are working back loop only, so also we're gonna just work in the back loop of the V. And you may wanna count the number of stitches you make on this chain, just to make sure that, again, it's going to be the same as X. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, all the way until you reach this mark stitch, this one, and it should be the same number of X, okay? So let's keep counting. 6. Okay, so here I have 1 chain left. Just gonna work in there like so. And I actually have the same number as X. In case you need to recount, just to make sure that you don't count this stitch. It looks like it's on the chain, but actually belongs to this stitch. This first stitch that you work, actually you work in 2 loops. You see this half double crochet right here that looks kind of strange. It's just because it's right next to the chain. So this stitch, don't count it, count from this one. And all the way until here, make sure that it's the same number, the right number, okay? You can see here, the chain that we made with the 3.5mm have kind of a little bit of stretch to it, same as the stitches, the half double crochet stitches. So if it's too stiff or too floppy, you may want to go back and redo the chain. On this stitch that we marked, we also going to work a half double crochet under both loops of the V, like so. Okay, then now you can remove this stitch marker, and here we have the rib lines facing us, so we work half double crochet, back loop only. Into each stitch across all the way until the end of the row, and I'll meet you there to show you how it's like, okay? Okay, so I just finished the last stitch of this row. Okay, and this is how it should look like by now. If you count the number of stitches on this row, counting from this stitch, the first stitch that you mark, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all the way until this very last stitch right there. You should have the exact same number of stitches as you have on all the previous rows. So just check it to make sure that the shape of the piece is even. All right, now we can just move on to the next row. And as you can already tell, we're gonna repeat pretty much the exact same thing, just alternating the half double crochet front loop only and back loop only rows until you have the same number of rows on the other side of the slit. I make 10 rows. I'm gonna need, here I have 1 row, right? So 9 more rows. The stitches on the that you made on the chain should be just the same as the previous rows. There's nothing new. You can see here it's the same thing going on all the way until the end. And yeah. Okay, so I've just finished the last row. It may look like it's small for your phone, but if you try to stretch the fabric, you see that it actually fits really well, and we like it to be a bit snuggling, right? However, if you feel like this is too small and there's no way you can fit your phone in there, you can always add more rows so that this will be wider. But remember that when you add more rows, you want to add the same number of rows for each side of the slit. So if you add 1 more rows here, you have to attach new yarn here and also add 1 more row for the other side of the slit. You can actually use the magic knot to join the new yarn with this end, but if your ends it's not long enough to do that, you can just take the new yarn and put it right here in this corner. Tie it like so one time, and then insert your hook in the same place, bring our loop, chain 1, and you will have a loop on your hook to make another row here, right? And you will see that it's actually the same. Make sure that you have the same number of stitches on all the rows. Moving on, we are going to join this sides of the fabric together at the same time, creating the second slit. So we will have to mark 2 stitches to determine the second slit, right? And make sure that you mark on the last row, the one that you have this loop on your hook. You know that here we have 7 stitches, so you can count 7 stitches. Show that if you made the chain 1 by the end of the row, don't count the chain 1 as a stitch, right? Count from this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you mark this 7th stitch like so, and then you will count the same number of stitches as X, the one that we note down earlier. So yeah, so you just count from the stitch next to the one that you just marked, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, until you have X number of stitches, and you mark the stitch next to that, right? So make sure that X, it's the number of stitches between the 2 markers, okay? Okay, next we are going to put these 2 edges together, right? And okay, and as you can see, here is my rib lines side of the fabric, right? If you haven't chain 1 here, remember to chain 1, and then we are going to switch to the 3.5mm crochet hook. Here we are going to use slip stitch to put these 2 edges together. So here it's very easy to find the first stitch of both corners, right? So you can see this is the first stitch of this corner, and here's the first stitch of the other corners. You want to take the back loop of this stitch and then the front loop of this stitch, and then you're going to yarn over with the working yarn and As you can already tell, whenever we switch to the 3.5mm crochet hook, we need to be very gentle on the tension. So don't put too much pressure on the working yarn because the slip stitch can be pretty stiff and that's not what we want, right? So be very gentle on the tension you put on the working yarn. Now, yarn over and then pull that yarn over loop through all the loops on your hook, like so, okay? And then you moved on to the second stitches. So take the back loop of this one and then the front loop of this one, like so, okay? Again, with the working yarn, yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook, okay? And as you can see, you see my loop is a little bit loose here, and that is because I'm very gentle on the tension, right? Make sure that you do that too, or the stitches will be very tight, which will affect the whole piece, right? The third stitch, we take this loop, right? And then this loop, third stitches, the back loop and the front loop, and then pull through all the loops until you reach the first marker, right? So this one and this one, pull through, this one, pull through, and you can see here I have these 2 stitches left before I reach the marker, like so. Okay, and when you reach this marker, you want to take both loops of the V of both stitches. So that one and this one, you also take both loops. As you can see, you have kind of like 5 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook. Very light tension, okay? Now, once you're done with this first marked stitch, we are going to slip stitch on this side of the fabric only until we reach this marker, okay? So here, you drop this fabric and you start working slip stitch back loop only on this fabric. So take the back loop like so with the working yarn, yarn over and pull through. Very light tension, right? Like so. Okay, and that the second stitch, that third stitch, insert the hook in the back loop, bring the yarn through 2 loops on the hook. Insert the hook in the back loop, yarn over and bring through. Like so. Okay, like so, and like so, okay? Make sure that the tension is very light, okay? If you pull on, if you try to stretch the stitches and this one it's really tight, then you may want to redo that, okay? It need to have like kind of some stretch the same as the fabric, okay? And so let's just keep doing that. And I will meet you when we are closer here to this marker, okay? Okay, so as you can see here, I am closer to this marker. And one thing I forgot is to mark the stitch where the slit stop on the other side of the fabric. So we can do that together now. And I think it will be easier if I count these number of stitches, right? So it's the pocket side. You just count from this stitch and all the way until this marker. And you're gonna count the same number of stitches from this first stitch, right? Make sure that it's the very first stitch right there. Okay, and then count the same number of stitches. Okay, so there you go. Make sure that it's the same number of stitches. If you count, you can count the number between the markers, or if you count the marked stitch, make sure that you don't mix up, okay? Now, let's move on, still with the 3.5mm crochet hook, right? I have 1 stitch left here until I reach the marker, like so. In the marked stitch, you insert the hook in both loops of the V. And then here you do the same. Insert the hook. Insert the hook in under both loop of the V. Make sure that the working yarn is behind your hook like so, right? And then put the stitches together like so that it's easy for you. 5 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull that yarn over loop through all the loops like so. Okay, and then to the next stitch we do the same as we did here. Take the back loop of this stitch, front loop of, you see this one, you may mistake it, but it actually where we just work the previous slip stitch, you can see here, right? So make sure you don't insert the hook in there. Take the next stitch like so, yarn over, pull through all the loops. Again, your tension is gentle, okay? Take this loop and this loop, just gently slip stitch this loop and this loop, slip stitch this stitch and this stitch, just very gently all the way until the end of the row, and I'll meet you there to show you how it's like. In the last stitch, we are going to take both loops of the V just the same way we did with all the marked stitches, right? Pull a loop out, pull through like so, chain 1, and bring out a big loop like so. At this point, you can actually try to put your phone into the slit. Make sure that it's fit, because if it doesn't fit, you can actually unravel this yarn, because we haven't bind off yet, right? And add more rows if you need, but this fit my phone really well, so yeah. Now we can cut this yarn, leave a long enough tail to weave in later, okay? And pull this loop out. We can now remove all the stitch markers. Now we are going to try to align the 2 slits, so make sure that it's really match like so. I can actually put like clipper right here, make sure that it holds, and then here we're going to use clippers. Try to stretch the fabric out a little, so that make sure that it's evenly put together. We first put a clipper right here in the middle like so, and then put more on the sides here, and then here. Maybe this one, it doesn't have to be, but I'm gonna attach yarn right here, so this is good enough for me to work on these stitches before I reach this place. So let's do that. Here we are going to use the 3mm crochet hook, okay? You can see that this edge is a bit messy. It's not as nice and easy to see the stitches or the loops as on top of the stitches, but it's okay. If we just move from loop to loops, it's gonna be okay. Try to pick a loop on the side of the corner like so. You put the new yarn in, and then you make a simple knot. Make sure that this end is long enough to weave in later. Now in the same place, you are going to insert the hook, bring out a loop like that. You can try to put this yarn end back into the wrong side of the piece, just so that it's easy to handle like so. Okay, we chain 1, and then we're gonna put these edges together with single crochet. So you just take any loop you see. So I'm just gonna take any loop on this piece on this edge of the fabric, and take the corresponding loop up on the other edge of the fabric. Yarn over, pull out loop, With 2 loops on the hook, loops are close to the sides of the hook, yarn over and pull through. And then move to the next loop. Don't work more than 1 stitch in a loop, right? So just find the next loop you find on the way of this fabric and the corresponding one on the other fabric, and bring our loop with 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through. Okay, let's take this loop and the other same loop on the other fabric, like so. Okay, yarn over, bring our loop with 2 loops on the hook. We're going to yarn over one more time and pull through, like so. Okay, so next loop and next loop, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through both loops, like so. And then the next stitch that you see on the way, just take the next loop that you see, and then the corresponding loop on the other piece. Sometimes it can be a little tricky, so just choose one of the loop that is easy to pick, like that. Yarn over, pull a loop through, like so. Okay, now that you're here, you can remove the clipper and move on to the next loop. Okay, that one and that one, single crochet, this one, and then maybe this one, single crochet, this one, and this one, single crochet, and you just keep removing the clippers and do the same thing all the way until the end. So let's do that together. Single crochet, and then try to pick one loop on the edge. If it's a little too hard, you can pick the yarn needle because it's a little bit pointier. You pull a loop up like that, insert your hook, make sure that it's a loop in the corner, right? And then we're gonna do a slip stitch. So yarn over and pull through all the loops like so. Okay, chain 1, bring our loop, cut, leave a long enough tail to weave in, right? And now we're gonna do the same to the bottom of the pocket. So put this here, make sure that it's really even. You can actually do this so that okay, and then you do the exact same thing we did on this end. Put the clippers on in the middle first, and then maybe here, okay, and then here, okay, and then you're gonna attach the yarn here in the corner and do the exact same thing we did here. You can rewind the video if you need, okay? Okay, and we are almost done. As you can see, we have 6 ends to weave in. So